China's consumer spending was on a high over the Spring Festival holiday. What does the spike in spending mean for consumer habits ahead? And the World Trade Organization has its first female and African as its new leader. What's her vision for her new role as the global trading system faces exceptional pressure? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. Consumer spending during China's Spring Festival holiday surged. Combined sales from retail and catering enterprises rose a whopping 28.7% year-on-year, according to China's Ministry of Commerce. As people decided not to travel home to help prevent the spread of COVID-19, they made sure to celebrate the holiday in the cities where they worked. What's the significance of this stay-at-home economy? How did online shopping change people's holiday experience? And are some pandemic-era spending trends here to stay? I'm pleased to be joined by Kuijs, head of Asia Economics at Oxford Economics via Skype from Hong Kong, and Han Hua, research fellow at Chongyang Institute at Renmin University of China. Welcome to both of you to The Point. Now, consumer spending, as I said, during the Spring Festival holiday totaled 820 billion yuan, that's about 130 billion US dollars. That's according to latest statistics from the Ministry of Commerce. That is almost 29% year on year. So, Mr. Kuijs, help us put these statistics into perspective. Do you think these numbers are significant? And if so, how significant are these numbers?
Right. So these are, obviously positive numbers. They indicate certain good developments. We need to be a little bit careful. For instance, the data that was released is actually referring to sales by key retailers, like large enterprises, mainly in urban areas. So we don't have a very full coverage. Also, of course, we need to take into account that this is coming from a year-on-year comparison that was very, very weak last year when many people were affected by restrictions and by the COVID outbreak then. But I think still this is a good, it is good to see that people were interested and able to do various kinds of spending, even if it was in their own area rather than going to other areas.
So do you have any idea of, for instance, the spending statistics of the year before, namely the Spring Festival 2019? And if so, are we going to have some kind of rough comparison as to whether, compared with a normal situation, the spending this year was still higher or relatively stable or possibly lower?
So for this particular number, which, as I said, refers to largely large outlets in urban areas, which is the number that the Ministry of Commerce gave us. We do also have, of course, that comparison with 2 years ago, and then you would find that it was about 4% higher than 2019. So that indicates that even compared to 2 years ago, it is up. This, of course, there are some price increases. So in real terms, the increase is a little bit lower, and of course. When we look at the overall pattern of China's economy, what we have been signaling in recent quarters and recent months is that the overall economy is doing really well. China is leading the world in terms of the economic recovery. But, for all of the strong numbers that we see on consumption is actually the least strong part of China's economy. Like industrial production, investment are the more rapidly growing parts, and the big question that everybody is looking at is that how will, in the first quarter as a whole, how will consumption be able to become a larger driver of growth compared to what it was in recent quarters?
How interesting. Ms. Han, let me go to you. What is your assessment of the performance of spending or consumer spending during this Spring Festival? 29% compared to the last year, but 2% according to Mr. Kuijs compared to 2 years ago. Is there a relatively healthy picture we're looking at?
Oh, certainly. I'm quite optimistic. You mentioned the word or the terminology stay-at-home economy, which is best describing the current economic status quo of China's economic recovery. But I would like to add one more feature towards this stay-at-home economy. It's not only, it's actually people are staying at home because of this quarantine, because of the risk control of the pandemic. But the goods, the circulation are not stopping at all. From the statistics, actually, when people during the Chinese Spring Festival, most of them are staying at home. But the goods nationwide, they are circulating very quickly and even crazily. From a most recent figure that during the past 7 days of the Chinese New Year holiday, actually there are about over 660 million goods or delivery services are on the road. This indicates that people are quite used to this online and combination with offline shopping and other entertaining activities using the delivery services, and thanks to the high road infrastructure building in the past 10 years or even longer, so that the transportation, the logistics, and even the personnel regarding in this industry are quite supportive to this stay-at-home economy.
Do you see a difference between the Chinese way of the stay-at-home economy, especially during the Spring Festival, or elsewhere in other economies, Mr. Kausen, if there is any major difference? And what is your understanding of the peculiarity of the Chinese way, especially, what Ms. Han described as, goods circulating crazily while people are staying at home, and with a single click at the mouse, you practically get everything you wanted delivered to your doorstep.
Around the world, we are in a social distancing mode at the moment, and that means that not just in China, but in many countries, people don't consume a lot of services. They especially don't consume the kind of services where you need to be close to other people, like restaurants, going to the beauty parlor, travel. Many of these types of social consumption are very much lower than they used to be, and people still, it seems, want to spend their money. So we do have, even globally, a remarkable difference between what is happening to the goods part of the economy and what's happening to the services economy. And of course, in an interesting way, Asian economies like China have actually noticed this in terms of rather strong export growth as well. Like we used to look at the US economy, and we used to want to know what the GDP number is in order to have an idea, what does this mean for Chinese exports. Nowadays, we don't really want to look at the GDP number, because we want to look at how is goods consumption doing. And moving back to China's own economy, indeed, I would say, so as I mentioned, there is a global trend towards not a lot of social consumption, but lots of goods consumption. In China, of course, where the online economy and the digital economy is relatively well developed, I think we see that this is playing out in a more pronounced way. Like people have become very much used to online shopping and these kinds.
Do you see any of these patterns becoming long-term, the kind of here to stay, or relatively short-term connected with the Spring Festival? Ms. Han first.
I think so. First, people are getting used to this online shopping, and just like you described, it's so easy, and just one click and you can have the goods and any other services delivered to your doorstep. So it is so easy to get used to that, even get addicted to that. To tell you the truth, I get my daily groceries to cook for my daughter, and I don't even go to the shopping centers or grocery stores. I just have several apps installed on my mobile phones, so I can choose from either of them or maybe several of them, so that I can choose my favorite vegetables, meat, and other goods to be delivered to me, and it's quite a saving time. So I think it's a longer term pattern rather than a a festival behavior, shopping behavior.
Okay.
But it also needs to, I need to add here is that it needs the infrastructure support, like the personnel support,
Yeah.
because it's highly populated or related. And also it needs the other services involvement, such as digital payment, infrastructure of the digital currency, and other, even the highway speed transportation to be very supportive role. So worldwide, I think the infrastructure needs to be enhanced.
Yeah. Well, you know, I always look at things from the good and bad perspective. In this case, sustainable or green, whether it is green, whether, you know, because when you go to extreme, there is always some kind of danger looming in the horizon. So, Mr. Kuijs, first of all, do you think these trends are here to stay in China? And secondly, do you see any side effects that need to be watched, you know, so that it is sustainable, it is green, it is ecological, and, you know, it doesn't create some kind of bubble that will be burst in the future?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree that to quite some extent, this is not just a one-off. People in China are pretty comfortable with the online economy, and also China has probably less of a history of, you know, like in Europe, people like to go downtown to do shopping and a little strolling around. I think that's a little bit less common in China. So I'm pretty sure that the online economy is going to make up an increasingly large share of the overall one. Mm-hmm. But as you indicate, and I think that is the right way of looking at it, we also will have to make some changes to make this all sustainable, because the way that things are happening at the moment with all that material and plastic, and also, of course, the fuel consumption of these people that are driving around and bringing packages to each individual house, I think there are changes needed to reduce the ecological footprint of all this online shopping. Mm. And of course, China's government has already started to think about that and try to start making some changes in that direction.
Yeah. Ms. Han, your understanding of the future way to go in terms of what need to be watched out and what kind of regulations that need to be done in terms of sustainability. 30 seconds, please.
I'm happy you mentioned the sustainability. I think one more thing that we need to make it sustainable is that how we make the offline shopping activities, the shopping centers, as well as other activities, consuming activities, to be more sustainable. So drive people not only stay online, but to have a combination of both online and offline activities. After all, human beings are social animals, so they need some offline activities to entertain themselves and also to boost the sustainable development on a more balanced manner.
Yeah, and to keep healthy as well, both mentally and physically. Thank you so much to my two guests, Louis Kuijs, Head of Asia Economics at Oxford Economics and Han Hua Research Fellow at the Chongyang Institute at Renmin University of China.